Well, the next 5 episodes are a very special 5 episodes here on Left Off the Map. We're doing a food crawl of the Huon region here in Tassie. Huon is down south. It's about an hour's drive south of Hobart, the capital city, and it's become really well known for its foodie environment, foodie nature, great produce, and little cafes, wineries, vineyards that have been popping up everywhere, and some that have been there for a long time. So we thought we'd start with an apple recipe. I'm going to do a honey, ginger and apple cobbler. So a fantastic old school dessert. The reason I like old school desserts is because they're kind of foolproof. You can't really go wrong with them. I've got 250 grams of honey in. Just going to put that on a gentle heat and just let it warm up a little bit. Some ginger to go with that. Not too much. About a 2 centimetre knob of ginger. You want to dice this reasonably finely because it is going to stay in the sauce. The ginger is going to soften quite a bit, so it's going to be nice to eat. So I'll dice this up, pop that in, and then I'm going to add a little bit of ginger. Oh, a little bit of ginger. I'm already adding the ginger. A little bit of vanilla. I'll pop my ginger in with my honey. Ginger and honey is one of those things that can go sweet or savoury, I think. All right. Put that down. In with that, about a teaspoon of vanilla. So my wine, I've got 60 mils of sweet wine. So I need a little bit of corn flour. I'm going to make a slurry. It's about a teaspoon of corn flour. Put that in. And then I'm going to put my corn flour and wine mixture into my honey. And that will mean that our apples, when they break down, they release a lot of moisture. It won't end up with a really wet apple mixture in the bottom of our cobbler. I like the skin left on my apples when I have crumble or cobbler or anything like that. If you don't, you can peel them. I like the sort of red glow that it gives the apple, and I also like that it helps hold the apple together. Put the apples in with my honey mixture. Now I need enough to fill this little pie tin. So I'm probably going to need 3 apples, I reckon. 3 decent sized apples. And then I just want to let that tick away for about 5 minutes. The apples are spread nicely in our pie tin. Just going to give them a little pinch of salt. Honey and salt is a really good combination. Pinch over the top with that. You'll find it makes a big difference. Now to make our dough. About 1.5 cups self-raising flour. About 1.5 cups of it. Was close. Cinnamon. About a teaspoon of cinnamon and ginger. Pinch of salt in there as well. I've got some butter, which I'm going to pinch into the flour till it resembles breadcrumbs. So I'm going to spread that butter through the flour. And then I'll add an egg and some milk until I get the dough the consistency that I need it to be able to cut out my shapes to go on top of my cobbler. So butter in. This will take about 5 minutes to sort of pinch this butter through the flour. That's my dough at the end of the process. So get a little cutter, cut out some rounds. To go on top of your apples. My oven is set at 180. So now, little cobbler buns. Place them on top. Alrighty. So that is our cobbler. We've got our cobbler dough or little cobbler buns on top of our apple mixture. Can now go into the oven for about 20 minutes. Same time it would take to cook scones normally. So probably check on it at 15 and then see if you need the other 5. Now this beautiful golden pastry on top and that great combination of ginger, apples and honey that is oozy on the bottom. That corn flour will come together, it'll make that sticky sauce that'll stick everything together. Have it with some ice cream or some cream. You'll absolutely love it. So we're going to learn a little bit more about apples and the role they played in Tasmania and in specific Huon, which is where we're going to spend the next 5 episodes touring around and getting to know Francis Bender. Today is a very special day in a very special week here on Left Off the Map. We're heading to Huon, which is down south of Hobart, about a half an hour's drive out of Hobart, which is 3.5 hours from where I live in Sprayton. Catching up with a really good friend of mine, Francis Bender, who's a bit of a Huon icon. She knows this region, she grew up here and lived her whole life here. So we're going to find out what it is about Huon that makes it the hot spot to go when you're looking at tourism or cuisine in Tasmania. She's also the co-owner of Huon Aquaculture. So we'll have a chat about the salmon industry and the growth of their brand. She's waiting in here at Willie Smith's apple shed. We'll go meet her now. Well, it is so nice to see you down in your area of the woods again.
Yes, you're down in the right end of the state then.
Yeah, it's beautiful down here. I always see Huon as it's almost the reverse of sort of what we're doing up north with it being produce driven, but it's just a bit funkier down here, I think.
Yes, yeah.
But I think is it the proximity to Hobart that creates all these cool little places like this place here?
I think historically it was actually quite a remote region.
Yep.
So we're on the other side of the mountain and we were just our own little area. So I think that's what's created us being just
uniqueness.
Slightly different. The Tasmanians are different to start
That's
with,
true,
and then
yeah.
if you come from the Huon, you've got another layer on top as well.
Yeah.
So, we're fairly, we've always had to be quite self-sufficient down here.
Yep.
And innovative. So, and you look at the rebirth of this facility, for instance. We've always been growing apples down here, but the rebirth of the cider industry and this facility being here now at the gateway to the Huon is really sort of showcasing who we are and what we can do.
I think innovative is the best word to describe it. It is unique, and like you said, all of Tasmania is unique, but the innovation that's gone into all the new little openings here
Yes.
and the risks that people are taking
Absolutely.
is just fantastic, I think.
Yes.
And it is a region that is known for, it's now becoming really well known for tourism, but it's known for produce. So great produce has always come out of this region, and that hasn't changed.
Well, no, we've had wonderful timber products, we've had wonderful apples and pears and great seafood.
Yeah.
And so from those sort of 3 key platforms, all the other areas have grown up.
Yeah.
And as Tasmania's opened up, more people have discovered this little part of Tasmania that's quite often left off the map, literally.
Yeah, perfect.
People probably when they do a tour of Tasmania don't always, they sort of get to Hobart and they think, oh, if I go down there, what will I see? I want to go up the east coast.
Yeah.
And so quite often they don't come here.
Yeah.
And then I'll run into tourists on the side of the river who are camping and things and they say, oh, we were in Tasmania before and we wish we'd have come here before because they miss what they say is the best bit.
Now, Huon Aquaculture, which is your company, how long have you guys been doing what you do? And it's family owned?
It's family owned. We are publicly listed, but we're still the majority shareholders. And we've been doing what we've been doing now for 35 years.
Wow.
So that's why I'm looking a little old and haggard. But it's an amazing story. People often say to me, did you think that you'd end up doing what you're doing? And I just look at them and think, no, are you mad?
Yeah.
It's quite a journey. And to think that we started off with, one pen of fish, one employee, one boat and hand feeding, to now leading the world in the technology we're using to feed our fish, to having, just under 800 staff.
Oh, wow.
It's quite mind-blowing, really.
800.
Yeah.
You're seen as big in Tasmania, but worldwide, you're a small, tiny artisan company.
We are. We are small, and we are artisanal compared to, some of the companies in Norway and Chile and those places. But we meet them head on in the export markets where salmon from across the world meets, particularly in Asia.
Yeah.
But we seem to be the very best.
Yeah.
The critical mass that our company has been able to provide to brand Tasmania over the years overseas has, someone to ring up and say, we're doing a promotion on Tasmania, can you provide your products?
Yeah.
And then we'll suggest, how about we get some Willie Smith cider or something else to come in as well. And we've done that. We just did this recently in Japan with Bruny Island cheese.
Yeah.
It's our agent in Japan that's now selling Bruny Island cheese in Japan.
Yeah.
Because of the connection that we made.
Yeah.
And so that goes on all the time.
Yeah.
And that's really important. So we're actually building everybody's business up for the greater good.
Yeah.
I know that in Japan, our promotions in Japan, they actually have our photos on packs.
Yeah.
Because then they can point to the farmer.
Right.
Because they really want to know where it's coming from.
Yeah.
And we're actually a little bit spoiled in Australia, as you well know. We just assume that our food is safe.
Yeah.
And that it's well regulated and it's grown sustainably, and we can just rock into any supermarket or shop anywhere and we can buy really good quality ingredients.
It's going to be quality, it's going to be safe.
And we just don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
That isn't the case in most countries overseas.
Yeah.
And that's why Tasmanian product is now being sought internationally because of that, because they know that the promise we have for our produce is safety.
Yeah. There's lots of things I want to talk to you about over our little week trip through the Huon. Mainly the harvesting process and how that's different, the new packaging, how it keeps freshness, and also just the ease of salmon and how easy it is to use, and a mindset change around the value of the protein and being able to see it just like a piece of chicken.
Oh, absolutely. It's such an easy product to use.
Yeah.
And as I can attest to, because it has the high oil levels of the good oils, people needn't be scared of cooking it, throwing any flavour variant with it, because I've tried absolutely, because I'm a shocking, throw everything in, cook and just make things up, never follow recipes, you'd hate me. Nothing I've ever thrown in it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And even if you overcook it, which you shouldn't, but sometimes you get on the phone and you forget, it still doesn't dry out.
Yeah.
It's such an easy product. So people that are scared of seafood can really sort of get a piece of salmon and make a great meal for their family in no time at all.
Yeah. So we're going to finish our week with a little bit of a cook. I think we're going to your shack.
Yes,
we're going to cook on the deck.
Yep.
So before we leave, I want to grab, I've got a sparkling cider here.
Yes.
So we'll grab a bottle of that to go with what we're cooking. But for now, we better get on the road and we're off to Home Hill next.
Right.
Now you've had the chance to meet Francis and you've seen our first stop in the Huon, Willie Smith's apple shed. We're going to finish off today with another apple recipe, apple and pear. As much as the Huon is known for its apples, there are still a lot of pear orchards there as well. So we're going to pair the pear up with apple. There you go. It's my dad joke for the day. It's going to pair some pear up with some apple. Instead of using, a lot of people use brown sugar or honey like we did before, just normal white sugar to sweeten the apples, I'm going to use palm sugar. I love the carameliness you get from palm sugar. It's got about 180 grams to 200 grams of palm sugar that I've just broken up. I'm going to put a little bit of water in with that. So that'll start melting. I'll get onto my apples and my pears. 3 apples and 3 pears. Apples first. Once I cut these, they are going to go in similar to the recipe we did before with the honey. They're going to go in with the palm sugar mixture and a little bit of rosemary. So this is like all desserts that I make, it's kind of a savoury dessert. So it's going to have a little bit of salt, a little bit of rosemary, and all those sort of caramelly flavours from the palm sugar, and that little bit of freshness from the apples and the pears with some crumble on top. So I'll chop these up and then pop them into our palm sugar once that's melted. Pears and apples have been cut and put in with my palm sugar. They're nicely coated. I'll add some vanilla, about a teaspoon of vanilla paste, some spices. In fact, I'm not going to add those spices. I'm going to leave them out. Last one we made sort of a spiced topping. I'm going to leave the spices out of this one. So there's a little bit of a variation in the flavour profile. Now I need to make my crumble to go on top. So flour, about a cup. Now, crumble recipes are pretty simple. You kind of, once you add your flour, so I'm adding a cup of flour, you want about the same of everything else. So about a cup of oats, a cup of brown sugar, a cup of slivered almonds, a cup of desiccated coconut, and about a cup of butter, about 125 grams of butter. I'm going to do what I did before with the butter. I'm going to rub it into this mixture so that it sort of gets mixed everywhere into the mixture. Then that will just sit on top of our apples once we put them into the tin. The butter and the sugar will combine to make sort of a caramel, which will make our crumble nice and golden on top. This one, I haven't added any flour to the apple and pear mixture because I want it to be a little bit moist so that the crumble has something to soak up. So it bubbles up through the crumble and that crumble can soak it up. Butter in, rub this butter in, and then we'll put our crumble together. Apples and pears have been spread out. As you can see, they're still nice and firm. You just want to cook them for a little while to just soften them, because if you overcook them now, they're going to fall apart once they go into the oven. The skin will help hold them together a little bit, but you still will end up with a bit of a mush. So crumble mixture just gets spread on top. And like I said, some of this is going to fall down, that crumble is going to fall down into that palm sugar mixture and help thicken it. So we're okay with that. Spread that all the way out to the edges. All right. Now the good thing, one of the things I like about this is it can be made well and truly in advance. So this can just sit now until you're ready to make your dessert. You've got about half an hour of that in the oven. So you pop it in half an hour before you want to eat it, it's ready to go. But it can be made a day before if you want to. It can sit in the fridge and then come out and go into the oven. So we'll pop that in 180 degrees for about half an hour. And that will see at the end of today's episode, the start of a 5-day tour around the Huon region. So join us next time and we'll head off to Francis's next location.